Welcome back to Klepper's Corner. Today in history. Today we're diving into February 9th, a date that has seen republics wobble, empires scheme, jazz neighborhoods bulldozed, planets explored, atoms invented. Because apparently history has a scheduling problem and likes to put its biggest plot twists on the same day. So buckle up. February 9th is basically the season finale of the Gregorian calendar, and we're here to binge watch all 8 centuries of it. Segment 1. Republicanism in crisis across the Americas. February 9th may as well be National Democracy is Doing What Now? Day. Let's start in 1825, when the United States House of Representatives held a contingent election that basically told the people, hey, thanks for voting, now we'll pick who wins. Andrew Jackson had more popular votes, more electoral votes, and apparently more rage in his diary than anyone alive. But he lacked the majority needed. Enter Henry Clay, the Speaker of the House, and a man who loved a good deal almost as much as he loved tariffs. Clay backs John Quincy Adams. Adams wins. Adams makes Clay Secretary of State. And America invents the political equivalent of buying your friend dinner the night before they promote you. The corrupt bargain was born, and Jackson immediately began running for president for the next 4 years straight, proving that the ultimate American political skill is holding a grudge. Fast forward to 1861. Same country, different meltdown. 7 southern states create the Confederate States of America and, on February 9th, elect Jefferson Davis president of this new breakaway nation. Historians say Davis was chosen because he was moderate, which tells you everything you need to know about the other candidates. Davis becomes the guy tasked with turning treason into a LinkedIn skill set. And suddenly, the road to the Civil War is greased, paved, and hosting a NASCAR event. And then there's Mexico, 1913, where February 9th launches the Decena Tragica. 10 days of coup, counter-coup, artillery duels, and enough political betrayal to make Shakespeare sit up in his grave and say, "Tone it down, guys." General Reyes charges the National Palace on horseback and is immediately shot dead, which is not the vibe you want when starting a coup. Meanwhile, President Madero makes the rookie mistake of trusting General Huerta, a man whose mustache alone should have been listed as a red flag. Huerta pretends to defend the government while actually working with rebels and a very meddly U.S. ambassador, eventually overthrowing Madero. February 9th, the day democracy checked its warranty and discovered it had expired. Segment 2. Empires, Exploitation, and Resistance. Now let's hop to 1757 Bengal, where the British East India Company, also known as capitalism but make it sovereign, signs the Treaty of Alinagar with Siraj ud-Daulah. The company demands tax exemptions, fortification rights, and permission to mint their own money. When a corporation prints money, things have officially gone too far. This treaty softens Bengal for the Battle of Plassey, and before long, the British are treating India like it's the world's most unwilling Airbnb. Jump to Vietnam, 1929. Alfred Bazin, a French labor recruiter, is assassinated by a radicalized faction of the Vietnamese Nationalist Party. Why? Because he represented a forced labor system so exploitative, it made Dickensian factory owners look like kindly guidance counselors. The French respond with mass arrests. The Nationalists respond with the Yen Bai uprising. And Vietnam begins shifting from nationalism to communism faster than Bazin's associates could say, maybe colonizing people is bad. And then 1955 South Africa, because February 9th loves chaos with global coverage. Apartheid officials show up with 2,000 armed police to destroy Sophia Town, a vibrant, multiracial, jazz-filled community that absolutely did not fit the racial order the government wanted. Homes bulldozed, residents exiled, culture erased. It's the tragic love child of urban planning and authoritarianism. The result is Triumph, a rebuilt white suburb whose name literally means triumph, which is the linguistic equivalent of kicking someone and shouting, "I won!" Segment 3, Total War and Global Strategy. Now we sail to Korea, 1904, where the Russo-Japanese War begins roaring to life. At Chemulpo Bay, Japanese ships corner the Russian cruiser Varyag and gunboat Koreets. The Russians realize they're outnumbered, outgunned, and out everything. So they scuttle their ships in a kind of nautical Irish goodbye. Japan, meanwhile, lands troops, storms Korea, and begins rewriting the geopolitics of East Asia. This is the moment Europe realizes the rest of the world has been doing push-ups. In 1934, 4 Balkan states, Turkey, Greece, Romania, and Yugoslavia, signed the Balkan Pact, a defensive alliance designed to keep the region stable. Unfortunately, it only protected against Balkan neighbors, not the giant fascist empires revving their engines next door. It's like forming a neighborhood watch that proudly announces, "We will protect against raccoons, but if a bear shows up, good luck." And then, February 9th, 1943 delivers a double major. The U.S. secures Guadalcanal, and the Soviets liberate Kursk. Imagine being the Axis powers and realizing you're losing in 2 hemispheres on the same day. Guadalcanal marks the moment Japan goes from expansion to survival mode. Kursk creates the salient that will host the largest tank battle in history. February 9th, the day the Axis powers started sweating through their uniforms. Segment 4, the Cold War's perpetual paranoia. 1950, Wheeling, West Virginia. Senator Joseph McCarthy waves a sheet of paper and claims to have the names of 205 communists in the State Department. Or maybe 57, or 81. McCarthy's math changes more often than TikTok trends. The country panics. Careers are destroyed. Hollywood blacklists explode. And America learns the hard way that giving a microphone to a man whose main skill is shouting numbers is a terrible idea. Then, in 1978, Canada expels 11 Soviet diplomats in an espionage scandal called Operation Soap Chips. It's a very polite spy crisis. Instead of assassinations, it's more, "We regret to inform you that we know what you've been doing. Kindly leave the country." And 1984 brings the death of Yuri Andropov, the Soviet leader who followed Brezhnev and preceded Chernenko in what historians affectionately call the parade of very tired men. Andropov had reformist potential, but kidney failure ended his tenure. The Soviet Union essentially speed-ran geriatric leadership transitions until they finally pulled Mikhail Gorbachev off the bench like a freshman who didn't realize he'd just been subbed into the 4th quarter. Segment 5, engineering the modern world. 1811. Robert Fulton gets a steam engine patent that revolutionizes river travel. Before steam power, traveling upriver was basically CrossFit for boats. After steam, America's West opens up, trade explodes, and river pirates become a very niche problem. 1870, Congress authorizes a national weather service. It starts in the Army Signal Corps because apparently the best people to predict tornadoes are the same people trained to blow up bridges. Weather forecasting gains funding, structure, and the ability to tell you your picnic will, in fact, be ruined. 1969, the Boeing 747 completes its first flight. It's the first wide-body jet, the one that makes international travel accessible to regular people, not just mustache businessmen and spies. Humanity now flies in giant sky tubes with more legroom than modern airlines would ever allow. 1971, Apollo 14 splashes down. Alan Shepard and Edgar Mitchell prove that, yes, after Apollo 13 nearly exploded, NASA can still land on the moon, do science, and make it home without Tom Hanks narrating anything. 1996, German scientists create Copernicium, element 112, for approximately 3 seconds. The periodic table expands, proving once again that humans love inventing things that immediately disappear. Segment 6, culture, sports, saints, and the human experience. 1907, the Mud March. 3,000 women trudge through London's freezing sludge to demand voting rights. Britain sees aristocrats and factory workers marching together in the rain and thinks, something's up. It's a turning point for suffrage and a reminder that democracy is often delivered by people with ruined shoes. 1964, the Beatles appear on Ed Sullivan. 73 million people watch. America experiences a sudden, joyful serotonin spike after the trauma of JFK's assassination. Teenagers scream so loudly they create new decibel records. Parents say, "What is this?" Society changes permanently. Rock culture becomes mainstream. Hair gets longer. Everything gets louder. 1895. Volleyball is invented by William G. Morgan. He wanted a sport less violent than basketball, which tells you how aggressive early basketball was. Volleyball becomes a global phenomenon, beach culture icon, and the only sport where blocking someone is considered polite. 1992. Magic Johnson returns for the NBA All-Star Game after his HIV diagnosis. He wins MVP, dominates the court, and shows the world that HIV is not a death sentence, and absolutely does not diminish your jump shot. And February 9th also brings saints. Saint Marin, whose followers shaped Lebanese Christianity. Saint Apollonia, patron of dentistry, because nothing builds spiritual devotion like losing all your teeth for refusing to renounce your faith. The day also hosts the birth of President William Henry Harrison, who lasted only 31 days in office, and the death of Fyodor Dostoevsky, whose books remind us that existential dread was invented long before Twitter. In conclusion, February 9th is a historical roller coaster that throws you into colonialism, baseball-level political drama, tanks, coups, saints, airplanes, moon landings, and rock concerts. It's a day that proves humanity's greatest talent is doing absolutely everything at once. It's messy, it's brilliant, it's catastrophic. And somehow, it all ties together in the ongoing saga of people trying to rule, resist, build, destroy, invent, and occasionally sing in perfect harmony.